Now, which we can.
Those extra, yeah.
I mean, your secret.
Yeah, thank
You
you.
can put it right there. Okay.
There.
We're going to start.
Yeah.
Well, hello, everyone. My name is Alex Miranda. I'm the president of student government, and thank you all for coming to this town hall. It's actually a special town hall. We have our first guest speaker coming at around 1:30, and that's Dr. Lepper. And yeah, he'll be here. But thank you again for coming. I know there's some familiar faces here, also some new faces. So in light of that, could we go in this direction and just introduce ourselves? Well, actually, let's introduce ourselves first, and then we'll go this way.
Hi, I'm Ashley. I work in student life and I'm also the advisor of student government.
Alex Miranda, president of student government.
My name is Michael Zazzo. I'm the vice president of student government here.
I'm Nick Thomas. I'm the communications director.
I'm Sophie Marlin. I'm treasurer for GRCC Standout.
I'm Zoe. I am president of Standout.
I'm Spencer. I'm president and founder of Arts.
I'm Katya. I'm the secretary for Signing Up.
I'm Tara Husky. I'm the president and founder of the fitness club.
Jerry Gaushaw. Autism awareness. I would like to say that I like seeing the tutor appreciation because I have a tutor and it is a tremendous help to people that need stuff like that. You gotta give credit where credit's due.
Hi guys, I'm Dave. I'm the vice president for the Black African Student Union, and I'm also from an representative.
Oh, my name is Juan. My first time here.
Maya. I'm Jamie. I'm copy editor for the Collegiate.
What now?
My name is Kevin and I work with Legal. My name is Brayden. I'm the president of the school.
I'm Jennifer. I'm the advisor of the Collegiate.
I'm Matt. I'm taking the culinary arts.
Tiffany Vaughn, culinary arts student.
Hi, my name is Shalita, and I am the secretary of SACMAS.
Hi, I'm Kim Buddy, president of PTK.
I'm Walker Echok, the treasurer of the chess club.
Nice. Yeah, well, nice to have you. Oh,
Should I
oh,
also
yeah.
go?
Sorry.
My name is Kat. I'm the secretary of Standout.
Well, nice to see you all here once again. I think I'm gonna say this every town hall, but last semester we had 1 or 2 people at our town halls, so to see like a full table, it's like I'm very grateful for that. So thank you for coming here. But with that being said, we could go on our first update on what we've been doing. So a student government updates, and our first one is we went to Washington, DC. Was it last week?
Yeah.
It was last week. Yeah, we went to Washington, DC for a student government conference. It was very fun, very informative, kind of hectic, but it was like an opportunity of a lifetime, like just to be able to go for free. But yeah, we learned a lot and met a lot of new student leaders, and being there, we learned a lot of new good ideas that we might implement in the near future, maybe next year. Some of those may be an electoral system. I know you may be familiar with like other student governments in which you vote for the president or you vote for the vice president and so on. Personally, we weren't voted on since we didn't have the engagement at that point. But now that we have like more of a presence and more engagement in student government, we're thinking of maybe adding the possibility to vote for who you want to be president and who you want to be vice president and so on. So yeah, if all goes well, we'll have that running.
if I could just say one other thing about the conference is you get a really good kind of scope on how different and dynamic these kinds of organizations can be when you get to converse with a lot of different student government organizations and you see how they are similar to you, but also how they're different from you and what you can borrow from them in order to improve your student org. So I'm grateful that I got the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, it was just Michael and I who went. Nick was busy, but yeah. And then we're also looking at the possibility of adding more roles and positions to student government. Since we encountered like a lot of the student governments have 8 or 10 people, and right now we only have 3, probably 4 soon, but yeah, we could use some help. So we're looking at that possibility. The second update is we're continuing conversations about the pool renovation. If you were here at our last town hall, we had like a whole conversation about what the pool area, the natatorium will look like in the coming years, since they're taking out the pool and making something else. We had was it 2 weeks ago? Yeah, 2 weeks ago, we had our first conversation about the renovation. And our next one is this Wednesday. So it's ongoing. And from that meeting 2 weeks ago on Wednesday, we set up a town hall meeting for Whitney Marsh, the director of the field house, and Victoria Genowe, executive director of operational planning, to come at our next town hall to hear directly from you guys on what do you want to see that space as. So you're like the main ones who they're the main ones who hear you out. So if you really want to see that space be something great, please come to our next town hall and let them know what you want. My last update is student government was invited to attend a meeting based around a request for proposal for a learning management system. Our learning management system is Blackboard. So this meeting essentially is on how we can improve Blackboard and does it need to be replaced? Does a new software need to be implemented? But yeah, it's very early. Nothing is set in stone, but yeah, they want student voices on this initiative. So that's what we're doing. Are there any comments, questions? Yeah.
So it says both the next meeting about the pool renovation will be this Wednesday and then the next town hall. Are you the next town hall to have Whitney Marsh and Victoria? So next town hall is still the Monday. This is a separate meeting we're talking about.
That's
Wednesday.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the next meeting about the pool is on Wednesday.
Gotcha.
And then on October 30th, we will be inviting them into our meetings to talk about it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Good question.
Any more questions, concerns? Yeah.
When they're taking suggestions, utilize what'll be the formal full space. I'm sure there's like a budget in mind, or it's, what are the caps like, as far as what they can do, like financial?
Yeah.
Which topic was that? I meant
Like
like
the
the
pool
Blackboard or
renovation.
the pool? I don't know that figures have even come into play in like our time being a part of those conversations. So maybe that's something to bring to town hall next week to open that up.
Yeah, it's early conversations right now. They really want feedback, but I think the timeline said probably fall 2025.
Right, so it's, sometime down.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Like someone probably has figures in mind that they haven't been
Right,
shared here.
I'm sure there's like some, what's in the budget, right?
yeah. Any more before we move on?
What are some positions that you guys have in mind?
Yeah, we're thinking of potentially adding a secretary position. That's our main one right now. We wanted to also explore the possibilities of like having some sort of like judicial entity or an events coordinator, something along those lines. But the main one right now is secretary. That's something we're exploring. But yeah.
It's worth noting that we have had 2 open positions since last semester. So
I think to add on to like potential other ideas is to have like a student rep from each department. So that there would be kind of spokespersons from all over campus with those different perspectives. Spencer, yeah, I guess we'll go around sorry,
No, it's
around the
all,
room here.
so like how long do terms last? For the student government positions?
Yeah, we don't really have term limits here.
2 semesters and then it has a reapply period, correct?
Yeah, it's like an annual application process currently.
Okay,
So like once next semester is over, if we are still in the position, we would have to reapply for it. That's the current system that's set up right now.
okay,
We're exploring an electoral system to replace it now that we're kind of post-COVID it out. Because originally pre-COVID, student alliance way back in the day was done via an electoral system.
right, because the
So-
engagement went down, like.
We'd
yeah,
like to bring that back.
That makes sense.
All right, one more and then we gotta move on.
What time did you say the meeting was at on Wednesday?
It starts at like 8:30 or 9 AM, I think, but it's more of a private meeting, but yeah, it's 9 through 11. But yeah, thanks for your comments, but yeah, our next update is allocation request. This isn't a public vote, we plan on doing this just for transparency's sake. We want to let you guys know what is happening with the money and how are we allocating it. Our first allocation request is from the fitness club. Tara Husky, the president of the fitness club, is here. The fitness club is requesting $320.50 for the turkey trot and lift day. And sorry to put you on the spot again, but do you want to explain a little?
Yeah, so the turkey trot, if people don't know, it's like a 5K that happens every year. It's a fundraiser for Grand Rapids Public Schools. So all the funds go to that. And then I was planning on having a lift day, and this is open to everybody too, so it's not just like people of the club, but I'm having a lift day sometime next week, and I'm gonna get a coach from 8th Day Gym to kind of help people who are interested in lifting or have been lifting for a long time, but I want to have them in for about an hour and kind of personalize and help students and teach them kind of how to lift safely and also get familiar with the weight rooms upstairs because nobody knows they exist. So I want to highlight that. So yeah.
Do you guys have any comments or questions?
I guess I'd like to say that like the turkey trot 5K, I think that's a really good activity and it's a good fundraiser for the school event. I like that. I'm not super stoked on paying $160 to hire a personal trainer for a small group of students. And that's kind of where I'm at currently with it. I haven't made up my decision yet on how I'm gonna vote, because it's kind of like a split in half situation, because I really think that the 5K is a good event that'll be good for the students here on GRCC and good for your club as well. But that's my current comments right now.
My question is about the turkey trot as well, and it says it will cover 5 students registration. Do you have 5 students that are registered?
Not yet, but I know there have been multiple students who have told me that they're interested and it is like open to everybody. So I will probably have something posted on Raider Connect. And then the first 5 people that sign up for it will get paid for. And I do also have a coupon for other students to use that will get them like a discount, but that won't be covered by us.
Okay, so the funds will cover 5 students to participate in the turkey trot, and then the personal trainer would be open to anybody that comes to that event.
Yeah, and people who like, if someone wanted to do the 5K, but they weren't the first 5 people to sign up, they can still like run with us, but we just happen to cover the first 5 people that sign up. And the lifting thing is open to everybody as well. So
Cool.
not exactly sure how many people are going to show up, but it is open to everybody.
All right.
All right.
And when is the lift day?
Next Thursday from 3 to 4.
And are you already advertising?
I'm going to set it up today.
Okay.
Are there any public comments? questions?
As far as, the fee for the personal trainer, I used to go to anything. Those guys are, really knowledgeable and, well motivated. And I think, not only can, they promote safety, you know, in proper, you know, like lift form, as well as, you know, spending, you know, getting the spotters, of course, right? Very well. But, it may, add a little bit of prestige to that event too, because they think they're pretty, you know, pretty respected them around here.
Thanks. With that being said,
I do have one more comment,
Oh.
sorry. I did try actually to reach out to like professors and members of the exercise science department if they could take that role. And they had all kind of told me to reach out to other gyms in the area, so I did like kind of want it to be someone from here, so we wouldn't have to pay so much. So I'm kind of on the same boat, but as far as options, I don't think there's much else, and I really wanted someone to kind of be there and properly guide students, so.
All right.
Yeah, I like the idea of a personal trainer that is not employed by the college. I think that our professors and our staff are asked to do a lot. And so this is a great opportunity to get professional help from outside.
well, if that's all the comments, I'll just let you guys know, the people who don't know how this works. But for allocations that are under $999, they're a private vote between the student government e-board, so it would be between Nick, Michael, and I. And this is what this allocation qualifies as a private vote, since it's $300, $350. But if it is more than $999, it would be a public vote in which anyone can vote. So, yeah, just wanted to let you guys know that. But with that being said, with you guys, I personally would like to pass it.
I'll vote to approve as well.
I vote to approve as well.
Nice. I'll put in a thumbs up for to approve on this allocation request. And then I can pass it on to Michael for the events announcement.
Yeah, so real quick, there are two events that are coming up real soon that I kind of want to get as many eyes on as possible. The first being this Wednesday, pretty much all day, but I'm cutting it off from like 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. There's going to be a pumpkin art contest held on campus in the courtyard.
11 to
3. Correct. Oh, look at that, 11 to 3. I'll be here much earlier and much later.
Or until we run out of pumpkins and food.
But you can come on down, you can grab a pumpkin, you can decorate it, carve it, paint it, whatever you'd like, and then we're gonna have a panel of judges who are gonna assign winners, and we're gonna give out some prizes. So yeah.
Paint.
We don't have paint. Well, you can bring your own paint.
We have we'll like markers. Like,
Yeah.
Okay.
Other than that, the other thing that I was brought to my attention is that the library is hosting an artificial intelligence town hall. And that is going to be on the 18th, so this Wednesday. There are going to be 2 1-hour panels, one from 11 to 12 and one from 2 to 3. They're going to be discussing proposed policy changes regarding AI and progenitive AI and how that's going to affect the school. So I don't know much about it. I was just emailed about it to be like, hey, this is happening. But if any of you have strong opinions about AI and its place here in school, I know I do. I would recommend attending one of those 2 meetings on Wednesday. So yeah, that's about all I have. Do you want me to just jump into the first conversation point then?
Yeah.
Are there any questions about those 2 events before I move on? I should probably have asked. All right, first agenda item conversation. This was something that we brought back from DC that has been a talking point privately among us for a while, and now we're kind of developing a solution towards it. But our first amendment to the Student Gov Constitution in regards to how voting procedures work for allocation requests. One of the things that we noticed is that there's currently not anything written in the student handbook or in our constitution about multiple people from a single club or a single club putting an allocation request in for like $5,000, $8,000, $12,000, bringing all the members of their club in to vote and then voting to pass their own rule. And because they have numbers advantage, they would just overpower everyone else in them. And so the proposal on the table is that if your club is asking for an allocation, your club gets one collective vote in favor of it, but you don't get any additional ones. And this was kind of the best compromise we could make between not wanting to take people's voting away because democracy is important, especially with these allocation requests, but also deterring people from being able to fix votes. And so this was what we came up with. So we didn't want to just amend things without talking to you, and we actually wanted to put it to a vote whether or not this should be put in the Constitution and the handbook or not. So I open the floor to conversation, comments, concerns, and then we're gonna have a vote on whether or not we should approve this or deny it. Spencer.
I think it's fair. I mean, like, since like student government meetings are open to everybody, but like not everyone shows up to them. I feel like it's really easy to rig the system if you have like, you know, a bunch of people from your club come in. That's obviously a conflict of interest if you're trying to approve $1,000 or over.
Anyone else have anything really to say on, yes, start with you and then moving back.
Have you explored any other, options that might be effective or, more fair? Is that, how long, in order to make that amendment, that needs to be in the Constitution for, a length of time. And I don't know if it's worked, how long has that worked before?
Sure. So first of all, the Constitution was just rewritten this summer. For student government. When we rebranded from Student Alliance to Student Government, we also redid the Constitution and actually redid the Constitution system so it's uniform with everyone else's. That's why clubs had to do constitutions as well. So this was our first shot at the puck. Additionally, we spoke to a lot of other student governments at that conference and got their kind of input on it. And most of the student governments that I spoke to actually said that they don't allow student clubs to vote on their own allocation at all. If it's regarding your club, you abstain from voting.
It seemed like a conflict of interest.
Exactly. But we talked about it more privately and we were like, we don't want to discourage people from coming in and discourage people from participating in the process. So we figured allowing one vote to represent the collective of your club would be fair and still attack at the heart of what the problem is without being unnecessarily harsh.
That sounds reasonable.
Yeah. Back there.
So I have two questions. If that's okay.
Sure.
So for the first question, is it for 1,000 or is it for $5,000?
Any allocation over that's $1,000 or over that gets voted on collectively by the group, you would only get one vote for your club.
Okay, well, I can use the first part question then. So is that already a rule, like you have already made an amendment to the Constitution, or this is just your discussion?
No, there's currently nothing in the Constitution to stop you from bringing 30 people from your club to vote on your allocation.
Oh, okay, so this is the third. I feel this is opinion, more so a statement.
I feel like, isn't that the point of being able to vote though? Like, we as a collective are all representing our own group. But if we do need more support, are we supposed to be able to lobby that as a student government?
Sure.
Should we Be able to lobby or support if we need that?
And there's nothing wrong with lobbying your support and bringing a bunch of students from outside of your organization. But again, I want you to think about how we have a $30,000 allocation for the whole of all student orgs. If, give me a second, if the chess club, for example, I'm not picking on you. If the chess club, for example, had 40 members and they pushed an allocation request for $30,000 worth of chessboards, and then they brought every member of their club in to vote without telling anyone else, there's nothing in the rules that says they cannot do that.
Okay, so you want to set a rule as to how many people you can bring? Because I feel like I feel like having the support and being in for multiple people of the organization, being able to vote on what they need funds allocated for, they should be able to do that. However, I feel like you're saying, no, you can't bring these people, because at the end of the day, you're only getting one vote, so you're being in a sort of college yourself.
Only for allocations that specifically are for your own club.
Correct.
So if you're lobbying support from students unaffiliated with the chess club, and you can get them on your side and you can lobby for that and you can get support, absolutely bring them over. But you can't, like, no member of a club is going to deny their own funding request. That's what the conflict of interest is.
So, yeah, like no Republican is gonna vote for a Democrat if they have strong beliefs, so.
Sure.
Everybody, so what I'm saying is everybody should be able to equally vote on what they want, so you're trying to take away the fact that, oh, there's so many people voting, but that should never be the case, because as students, we should be able to go to the government and ask for what we need. And then, so everybody's voting, yes, everybody may say, oh, hey, this is a good idea, but that would be the support of the people, of the government, not of just this room. You understand what I'm saying? And also of the organization. I'm not saying, hey, randomly go pick up people because you need to support. I would say they need to know what was happening to you, and they need to be educated on it, but I don't think taking away that type of vote would be good for any type of organization. I think it's actually discouraging because the rep on campus with student government already hard to get what we need from this organization. So I feel like that type of rule is also just discouraging to any organizations more than staying on campus.
With the exception of, I think, 2 allocations, we've approved every single one so far this
But
year.
that's okay, I'm not, that's great, but I'm saying we're talking about for the future and for the voting process.
Yeah.
You're talking about for the budget, we're talking about for the higher ratio one, so. Okay.
For me, I had a question, I know you mentioned if the chess club, when it runs over the funds, should it be more of a cap of the funds rather than taking the whole together? Instead of 30,000, it could be a cap, a max cap, instead of taking the whole together. I think that's good.
Sure. I'll answer that. Let me get Spencer over here first. Bring more voices in.
I kind of wanted to elaborate, I'm sorry, what was your name?
Mine?
Yeah.
I'm CJ.
CJ, I kind of wanted to elaborate on CJ's concerns a little bit or piggyback off of it. Like, maybe we could like limit the amount of people, because I know she like kind of asked if that's what we were doing, like. Maybe we could limit the amount of people a club is allowed to bring in to represent them. So like maybe like 5 votes, and you have to like register each person, like, oh, write down the name and like, this is an arts club member or standout member or whoever.
I think this is it's definitely a problem that needs to be addressed, and I think this is the right step in the right direction, but I think it makes more sense to limit each club to have 1 vote per allocation request, because there's nothing stopping on the reverse side. I don't think there are many club rivalries, but if there's a huge vote that nobody wants to pass, other clubs can equally pack the student government and vote against it.
Yeah.
So I think it makes the most sense to just have that universal, one club gets one vote. And then the general public who aren't affiliated with clubs don't have a restriction because they don't have any particular affiliation one way or other.
Moving forward.
What if we had like a percentage of each, like members of each club that could vote? So like, if we said like, I don't know, 25%, there's a club with 10 people and a club with 100 people, so we could limit each club to like 10% of people can have a vote. So the bigger club with 100 people could have 25 people vote, what the club with 10 people could only have 4 people vote. Like, I don't know, I
So
feel
it's
like that would
proportional.
balance it out, because some clubs obviously are way bigger and have more people, and I think they should have a little more power than clubs that are really small with no people, little interest. They should kind of have less power, still have a voice, but I feel like if we kind of what Spencer, right? He was saying about having like a certain number of people for each group, I feel like a percentage would be better, just so it can kind of balance the power of the size of each.
We're
club.
just creating the electoral college at this point.
Yes.
So I want to say, I agree with both of those ideas. Clear them either one club, one vote, or proportional representation for clubs. I think that's better than the current system. I'm also curious about people who are maybe a member of another club, but are here to represent a different club. Are they allowed to vote? Or are they, because they're affiliated with a different club, are they excluded? And also, are these public ballots or private ballots?
We would run, so, I'll answer a couple of questions that I got in succession real fast, and then you had your hand up? Or did you have, who over here had their hand up? Oh, okay, so I'll get to that. You, then you, very sorry, I skipped over.
I kind of disagree with the whole, like, each club gets a percentage for the members, because then it seems like it has more power for the bigger clubs, and the smaller clubs don't have as big of a chance.
I
Like-
think that membership tracking too is inconsistent and
Yeah,
Sure.
that's faulty.
because then a club with 100 people has a lot more voting power than a club that has like 25.
But they might also need more money.
Yeah,
So
Yeah, and plus are they 100 active or 100 non-active?
that's the big problem. Like our account is way off.
One more.
Like you said.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that, the current system, gets kind of open for manipulation. Is, and it's self-serving and a conflict of interest. I'm not really sure, about the, one club having, one official vote when it comes to that either, because, like she said, even though, a club has more numbers, what's to say it's essentially more important to the other club? So where the, how can you put work or value on each one? But, I definitely think that, as when you pointed out, I had no idea that, somebody could overrun, just bring members in that day to be self-serving and, get the agenda done. But I do feel that, definitely, like it's got, but you just gotta have the right potential, the right decision to make, things work, but it definitely does have to be changed. I believe it in way.
So, pulling back everybody's comments, kind of starting in order of as I remember them. First thing, why are we not limiting the amount of an allocation? It's because certain events and certain clubs have the capacity to put on significantly larger events than others. For example, the multicultural club put on a multicultural festival last winter semester, and they requested, I believe at the end of the day, it was $12,000. And we had a lot more money back then, and it was voted on and it was approved. They had a lot of their own people there to vote and approve that allocation. But all in all, the event was a good event, and the event was very large. They rented out the entirety of one of the gymnasiums, and it was a successful, large-scale event. And I think that if there's interest for an event of that scale, and you can get people from outside of your club to support that, then it should absolutely be approved and voted on, because it's not us controlling the budget, it's you guys controlling the budget. To answer, the reason why it's not proportional I'm not opposed to a proportional idea. I think the issue with that is just logistics and measuring how people want, how people are recognized if they're part of multiple clubs and all that. It adds a whole bunch of math. Nobody here, I believe, is skilled enough at economy to deal with that kind of complex problem. I think that keeping it simple and just being like, hey, we collectively, our club wants this, and here's our vote to support that. Now, what does everyone else think is the most democratic way to go about it without opening up the wings to corruption or conflict of interest? And then the final thing on my mind, what was yours about again? I'm sorry.
One, public ballots versus private ballots, and also people who are members of different clubs.
Yes, already answered the different club thing. Every single time we have an allocation request that's over $1,000, if you've been here before, the way that the ballot system has worked is it's just done by hand raising, all in favor and then opposed, and we tally that vote based on the class or based on the group. And so the way that we would do that moving forward is we would just, using the log and the sign-in sheet, omit the people who are all part of one singular club, or figure out a more nuanced system for that moving forward. But that was the idea.
Good question.
Yes.
One more. Has this been an issue, or has this happened before? And, or was this a conversation that other people, other schools had, and then you're bringing the conversation here today?
This was an issue with our org, not to the extent, again, I think of the two primary things that come to mind is that multicultural event. I believe 8 of the voting members were part of the multicultural festival at the time. And there were still other people in the room who were voting on it, who were not in there. But it was still very much, in my opinion, it was still sided in one direction kind of heavily. And then the first allocation request for, I forget the name of the org, but the $10,000 allocation to send 4 students to a conference.
A second.
Yes. They got 4 votes in favor of passing their allocation request, and it was still denied, but that's still 4 votes where it would be fair to be 1 vote. And then let the other clubs and the other students who are unaffiliated with clubs have more of a say. It's the thought process.
I'm also part of the art club, so how would that work? Like, would, if like, say the art club requested something, would I count to the art club or would it count to stand up?
Good question, because I'm also in multiple groups.
Yeah, me too.
I think that if you are part of the club, you are representative by that collective. So if
In
you're
any
part-
capacity,
yeah, if you're an active member,
okay.
Just to speak on this, I may just play devil's advocate, but I think it was CJ's point. Who's, yeah, when we were having this conversation privately, I brought up the point in which that's politics. That's, if you want support, you gotta talk to your people and bring them. And I'm not saying like our system right now is perfect, but that's politics. If you really want support, if you really want something done, you gather your people up and organize. And I think I like, sorry, I forgot your name next to CJ. I like the idea about the max cap. We haven't really talked about that, but in my personal opinion, that would be my preference, in which obviously, I think right now we have maybe $25,000 to allocate this academic year. So obviously, there needs to be a cap in which a group can't request maybe $20,000. But I agree with the sentiment in which this is democracy. If you want something done, everyone should be able to vote. And whether and it's the student government's job as well to get people here to our town halls to get everyone's opinion and everyone's vote. So it works hand in hand. You get people to vote and we get people to come here to vote. So that's just my sentiments.
We'll go around once more.
Okay.
To add on to that, I do feel like it would be a nice idea if you were able to bring in like members of your club to say, give reasons as to why we would need this funding, like, oh, this would be really important to the community, so we would really like the money. So just having like other people give in and give their opinions as why this should be approved or denied, or not denied, approved.
Yeah, we've been encouraging that more, like with the SACMAS allocation, we offered all 4 members to give their opinion, and ultimately it didn't pass, but everyone knew. There were some people voting yes, some people voting no, but yeah, that's how it works.
Regardless of any rule change in terms of voting, every student, regardless of club or affiliation, will always be able to argue their point and have floor time. That will never change. Moving forward.
I just briefly want to return to that. We were just talking about the conflict of clubs, and you said that in the scenario where anyone who has any affiliation with the club, all 3 members here attend art. All 3 of the people representing Stando also attend arts club meetings. So that means that Stando as a club gets no representation in that case.
Are there any standout members who are not part of Arts Club?
There are a few, but
But
they're
what if not?
right. What if not? That means that our club effectively gets no voice. And that's why I feel like having each club having their own individual vote would be a better solution to that than just barring anybody, because there's a lot of crossover between some people are really engaged.
That's totally reasonable, and I respect that. I think the point I guess I'm trying to make is that even if you're part of 2 clubs separately, when you come in, you're a representative of that club who's asking for the allocation. Like, I don't anticipate you as a member not wanting to approve an allocation for Arts Club because it conflicts with Standout some way.
That may, I mean, I kind of understand what you're saying, but there can be time conflicts. There may be, it could just be down, like we're at the end of the semester and there's not a lot of money left. And I have something that Standout has something that I really want to see push, but I'm no longer allowed to vote no on that because the Arts Club has already voted yes and I'm a member. Do you see that? I can't have an opposing vote because my vote's been automatically taken away.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know,
Moving forward.
So like this point, to touch on what you said, so basically, you want the club, each club to have a representative. So what if for that statement though, is we're already here trying to represent our club and members to show that we're actually here on the campus. So I feel like so you're just giving us this club only to have this one vote, but they say so, but we're collectively people still. And I feel like the town hall, or I feel like they're trying to not say who a person, but like student government is trying to basically just box us into, hey, this club gets this club gets this, but a government is a collective of people, so each person should be able to have their say so. And each vote does matter, because it's still very 2/3 of a person voting, it's splicing a person, splicing a vote. It's saying, hey, you can come here and see what we have to offer and go through this, that, and the third, but when it's time to vote, you only get one person, one voice that matters, when 5 people are telling you, oh, I don't really this, or I really like this, or this, that, but it's always gonna come down to that person speaking the rule. And that's not entirely fair. So I don't know, I get the point of the fund, the concern of the fund allocating, but also on that note, that is also the treasurer's concern of student government to say, hey, that's not a single budget, that's not something that we can give you because we don't have the funds to do so.
It would be nice to have a treasurer to say that as a first thing. We're still looking, we're still hiring. And the second thing to that point is we have a responsibility to make sure that this funding is allocated as evenly as possible among all of the clubs. And we are currently only at $25,000 left for the year. And so we have to come up with some solution, because once the money is gone, it's gone and no one gets money. So I understand what you're saying. I disagree with the sentiment that we're splitting people, because if it's not your club who's lobbying for an allocation, you still get a vote no matter what. But I hear you, I understand your point. I just wanted to point that out, moving forward. I mentioned before, if you can get enough support outside of just your club for an allocation, and enough people really want to see a celebrity come to campus or whatever, it wouldn't be what I voted for, but just as a random example. If you can get the votes, then it has to pass, because that's what democracy is about. But the point is that you need votes other than just your club, you know. That's the whole point. The whole point is that, again, if the chess club wants to do something with all of the money, there's nothing stopping them from just bringing everyone in to overrule you. But yes. You, and then you.
Well, I think at this point, everyone here pretty much agrees to some version of this bill. But everyone has different opinions. I think the most democratic way to handle this would be to do what they do in real life and have a series of votes to see which version is the most popular, whether it be proportional representation or one club, one vote, or the current version as it is, do a vote on that to see what people like the most, and then do a final vote to approve it or deny it. Sure, would be my opinion.
You had a comment back there.
I understand where you're coming from about the whole idea of being put in the Constitution bar as a result. I think maybe a different idea of just saying one vote per group, because you never know, there's all these different groups from the club, or being put on the top or and stuff. Also, I think people forget that we are college students, this is college, not university. A lot of us may not be here long, so it's like, we make an idea for the future, but like, it's like, this is supposed to be something fun, and a learning environment as well. I think we just have to remember that, because a lot of us in different orgs, we also do try to participate in, org that's presenting here today. I think that we have to remember that we're trying to make it accessible for the students outside of everyone here that's signed up for these positions, for resume, future things, and different things like that. So it's like, let's keep it fun, keep it open-minded, because it's like, everyone in here has their own personal things going on, studies, different things like that. So it's like, again, if you want to see something different, you want to apply something to limit things, but your biggest goal is, you know, you have this set amount for the school year, maybe split it between semesters. Let everyone know, or straight up, like, think about what you want for your allocation for 30% of the semester from the board for the rest of the students, everybody. And then how you want to market that, or how you want to influence that through the board of the student government who has or not has, and you get feedback on how you can do something better to make this the allocation pass. But it's just like, I think we're all like, thinking ahead, and like, this is only like, what, meeting number 3 into the semester, or?
Yeah, well, we're halfway through the semester.
Understood, but we also got a whole winter semester, so we all have maybe different groups that they discuss or want to come in here and present for an event. You know, like, we just, actually just started the whole third person did. So it's like, you gotta let these boards build and see what they present to us before you downplay them or not give them a chance to, you know, speak of the allocation, how to apply for allocation, or even learn a budget. A lot of us probably don't have student council background. So just like, let them open minded.
Yes.
Also, well, where would you, how to do things out in the I think these things are how so I feel like the next step should be a good to be because you could also you could have that
5,000, then we budget to that, but.
We can definitely look into the possibility of a max cap system. I'm in favor of that. I'll be honest. I didn't think anyone else would be in favor of a max cap system because some events cost more than $5,000 to put on. And it feels weird to arbitrarily limit it in that way. But I understand where you're coming from, and so we can explore that. Yes.
So if we knew where we were coming from, then we could also know what we could also attack on to what we could add up and we come up with on our end.
Is there a limit like of allocations per group, like the rock club? The leader is like brand new to this and she's expressed in the club that she's not really sure how to go around this or what questions that the allocation might need.
Yeah, there's no limit to how many allocations you can submit. There's no limit to the number of people who can have a discussion on the allocation request when it's put onto the table. There's no limit towards voting in favor or not in favor of it currently. The only set requirements there are on allocation requests is just, and it's not even a set requirement, it's just something to look at, is itemized lists, detailed, it has to be going towards something specific. Otherwise, we don't vote. Spencer.
Yeah, so I just wanted to kind of go back to like, again, like if we have like a fixed number of people representing the club.
Mhm.
I feel like that's like the best of both worlds in a lot of ways in terms of just like, you kind of have a proportional representation there, not really, but like you have like different voices that can come into the mix. So it's a little bit more democratic than just like one vote per club. You can have some like opposing voices in there, like Kat was referring to. And like, you know, at the same time, it wouldn't require all the math that goes into proportional representation, but like, I feel like, you know, again, if we have like 5 people representing each club, there's not, I mean, this room only allows for so many people to come in, so like, that still leaves a lot of room for other people to come in. I feel like that's a decent enough like proportion of this room, for it to be fair. And yeah, I feel like you just have the best of both worlds.
Sorry, Spencer, are you saying 5 people like per each club, automatically each club gets 5 votes?
Yeah. well,
Because that's kind of exactly the same as just having one.
but,
Sorry,
like, but you have some room for dissension there, I feel like.
you
know.
feel like a smaller club would only have, would have fewer than, is what you're saying, or?
Not necessarily, like you kind of, like you have equal amounts of votes per club.
So like
You're
each
right,
club has 5.
But what I'm trying to say is that if you have 5 and everyone has 5, it's really the same thing, because everyone has 5, it's the same thing as just having one per club, essentially. Because everyone would just use those 5 votes to vote what they want. I see what you're getting at, but like,
I think we need more research on this,
maybe this is something that could be deferred until, well,
deferred
Yeah, I don't think
research.
we'll vote on this today.
Yeah. I
especially
got a
since
lot of
Dr. Lever's
information.
coming
Yeah.
in 125.
Yeah.
So
And I
we
have
don't,
one more thing. Oh,
oh,
sorry, your
yeah,
hands up.
let's get Brian,
Yep,
Braden,
I'm
Sorry.
sorry.
the hand back there. I didn't see yours. Sorry.
They, you guys require any sort of training when you do control health cycle in life.
I think that's a great idea.
We do not require budget training for clubs to do allocation requests. For partially reasons that we are trying to keep this simple and make it easier for you. And to put one more barrier towards getting your club's allocation request in seems a little bit counterproductive. When we're asking for budget allocation requests, it is as simple as saying 5 people at $20 each for a total of $100. We don't need like a whole profit and loss statement and all that stuff. We just need to know exactly where the money is going to. So I see what you're saying about budget trainings, and that would be awesome. But I don't want to put in additional barriers to clubs getting their things.
So not instead of like, just in general, for new conversation, just so, I mean, we should mention something about, like, they're new and don't know what, how to budget for their stuff, or whether like, what's the process strategy, what's the process, what's on their response, and things like that.
Sure, there's a page on Raider Connect about how to start a club, and it has the information on how to do those budget requests and that type of stuff as well.
I think if I can speak to that, like from student life, Sheena Weaver helps with like trainings, like specific to budget training. I know she's kind of redeveloping that offering and how it's made available. It's been required in the past, but as Nick said, it does act, that's a barrier. So we want to like help people with information. But making, like having so many requirements. We're on and off with making things required because if it's not a barrier, you know, it's been really difficult to say the least. I think it would be helpful, and like I said, Sheena is available for things like that. And really just in the absence of student gov's treasurer, we're all trying to delegate some of their work, and it's really hard to keep above water.
So the reason I most support the one club, one vote system is because, like, if you look at the chess club right now, we have a little over 100 members who are officially registered as members of the chess club. We have about 7 people at most who show up. So one, it's a question of, do we have 100 votes or 7? But also I'm the only person who can ever show up. So it's not, I mean, they all have classes during it. So I think the best system, if we were going to do proportional representation, would be have a system where all of the people in a club who actually show up have to sign, I don't know, like a petition or whatever, saying like, I'm an active member, and we calculate how many active members everyone has based off signatures, and that is equal to how many votes you have. And then you could still do a one club, one vote system where all of those votes have to go for one side or the other, yes or no. But that percentage of the vote, and then individuals who aren't members of clubs represent one vote.
So kind of like average it out, like who's actually signing when they show up.
Yeah, like, because you can't look at how many people are actually in a club officially, because otherwise like chess club would be super powerful, but we don't deserve that much power. But we also can't do it based off how many people show up, because then chess club would be underrepresented. The best system would be to have people write signatures saying, I'm an active member of the club. Maybe we have like an official sheet that you can sign and say like, there's 100 signatures and all the clubs together have 100 active members. Chess club is 7, so we get 7% of the vote. And, you know, maybe like, I don't know, yoga club has 80 active members, they get 80%. It wouldn't be like that. They'd be super overpowered. But, and then individuals can represent one vote.
Kind of like the House of Representatives.
Yes, exactly.
Are you talking about like a census?
Not exactly like a census, because the people who come would still vote for all of those people. They would represent all of those people in a vote. And if there's multiple people from a club, then they would have to determine amongst themselves what their one vote is going to be. So it's still one club, one vote, but all of those people vote for one side. It actually is kind of like what the US Senate does, or the US House does, like on issues where states vote on specific issues. It's very complicated,
So
but
is it kind of like a weighted vote then? Like,
yes, it's exactly like that. It's a weighted vote, but still clubs will only cast one vote. But it will be how powerful their vote is based off how many people sign like this petition saying, I'm a member, I want to be represented in student government. I could be a member and maybe I don't actually trust this person to represent me, I won't sign. But people who put their faith in this person, so they are kind of like they're getting elected too, because they're signing something saying, I support this. It's the most democratic in my opinion.
Brian, and then you had your hand up.
Well, I see the system proposed, they're anti-democratic, because you're basically forcing an entire constituency of people to vote in line with the club they have to be part of. And as my point against that would be that within a lot of organizations currently within the United States, especially labor unions, they don't force their members to vote a certain way. Usually, more often than not, it's voting with their conscience.
Hold on, you're extrapolating it completely. They can disagree.
Yeah,
If
they don't have to sign, they can show up themselves and represent themselves
Okay.
But
as
like,
individual.
at the
way that I
vote,
heard it was that it was like, if you're part of this club and your club votes a certain way, you're going to be.
no, they vote on that
I
at their
heard
meetings. Yeah.
Only if you sign it, your vote is counted. So you could be a member of a club and not be represented. You could show up yourself if you disagree or you dissent, or you just don't want to be represented by as a club. You just want to represent yourself as an individual. You can come here and not be, even though you're a member of a club, vote as an individual. The person who represents the club officially, and they have internal elections, I was just appointed because I was the only person who could show up from the chess club, represents the people who want to be represented. People who don't want to be represented can come themselves.
So I guess the question then is, like, at least from how I understand it, if there's conflict between the inner workings of a club about whether or not to important allocation.
Mhm.
Why is that why is that not being discussed at their club meetings? Why is it being discussed out here at the town hall when you have your representative?
I mean, like, in real life, you could make that same argument. Why doesn't, like, everyone vote on every single bill? You know, it just would be insane, and the chess club just doesn't care. If I can be totally honest about most of the stuff on here. They would want me to represent them so that they don't have to vote on things like that. But those who do care, if there are those who actually care, they can come here and represent themselves as individuals, and they don't have to sign, and they aren't being represented. So the chess club has 7 members, but maybe one person just doesn't want to be represented. They can come themselves and represent 1 vote, and I represent the other 6 votes.
That's fair. You had your hand up, and then we'll go back around.
I think we might need to set up like a different meeting so we can get to the other question.
Yeah.
Yes, we're probably not gonna vote on this anymore, just because there's a lot more data and there's a lot more in hand right now than I think we anticipated. So we're gonna go back to the drawing board with this more likely than not. But this conversation wouldn't have happened if we didn't get this in front of you anyway. So it was still a productive use of time.
Please, nobody abuse the rule in the meantime.
Yeah, please. I'm begging. Brian.
And also, it doesn't currently stand reason to make any sense that you'd want to represent a group of people. If they don't show up to vote for themselves, then that's their voice down the drain. It doesn't make any sense to say, I represent these people, especially in a sort of democratic system like that we've established here.
Mhm.
If we wanted to switch this to proportional or representative Republican system, then we could do that, but currently it's more of a democratic one, and it's working quite well already.
I just don't want it to turn into an arms race where people are trying to get as many people from their clubs in as possible.
Well, it's
in order
like
to-
turning out the vote. You try to get as many people as you can. Think about how massive a constituency youth voters are. They never turn out the vote. You can try your best, but it's up to them whether they want to vote or not. Just the same way here.
Could we limit the amount of allocations that each club can make?
No, we shouldn't do that.
Couldn't we set a limit on how many members can only sign a petition at a time? Say like, I am so-and-so plus 4 like-minded individuals, and we want this person to go, like, so. In theory, at least you could send maybe multiple members to disagree, yes and no, so there would still be a weighted vote, but it would be a little more proportional. In line with what others are thinking, like we maybe try to synthesize the 2 ideas in a way.
I'm not sure. We'll have to take a look at it. It seems a bit complicated.
It is.
Alex, did you have some reading or something?
No, it's just like to Brian's point and CJ's, I just really agree with that. Like if you really want something done, you advocate for it and you gather your people up. And I'm not saying that there shouldn't be regulation, but that's democracy. That's politicking. Whether you like it or not, that's politicking.
Is there a chance we could talk about The Economist?
Yeah, we should move on. We have,
Okay,
we put 125 for Dr. Lepper. He's set for 130. We just wanted like a 5-minute time window just to be safe. But yeah, The Economist. Like, what do you
I
want to
just
do?
had one thing to add, we didn't talk about, and you probably already had this in your thoughts, but what about a tie? What happens then?
We actually didn't have that.
It's written in our bylaws.
It is, okay,
We have a tiebreaker system.
okay, gotcha.
moving forward, thank you. First of all, thank everyone for your comments. I really appreciate it. There's so many things that we didn't think about, so that's good. The Economist was another thing that happened during our Washington DC trip. We actually met with, what's her name, Lori? Laura, about The Economist wanting to offer a package to Grand Rapids Community College to give every student and faculty member access to The Economist for free.
The news website, right?
The news website, The Economist, yeah. We are aware of at least one section of classes in GRCC where The Economist is required, actually. And in addition to that, we just think that it's a good news source that if they're offering could be made available to students on campus. We've been in conversation, we just started a dialogue with Brian Beecher, Keith St. Clair, and Felix Pereiro. I'm bad with names. trying to get more and gather more information about how this would work or how this would get paid for, because the other thing is that it's not free. The college would have to pay a little more than $5,000 for a 1-year package. And that money has to go from somewhere, or come from somewhere. So in that regard, we wanted to open up the floor, see how much student interest there was in The Economist, whether this is something you'd like to see on campus, and whether this is something you'd like to see, money being put forward to for that. So going around the room, starting with hands raised, Spencer?
Yeah, so which fund would this come out of? And like, how much is there in there?
The way I look at it personally, and I'm not speaking for everyone, I don't think there's any way this comes out of the campus activities budget completely. That it's just there's no way.
Yeah,
It's not affordable, which is why we're in contacts with the library and the social sciences lab to see if they're willing to maybe give some of their funding to this project, or see if there's a way that we can fundraise this in a way that we haven't thought of.
but like,
But it's not coming completely out of our budget. And none of this money will come out of our budget at all until we get a consensus and a vote on it.
but like, so like the part of the budget that it is coming out of, what is that normally used to pay for? Like,
Explain the question, I'm sorry.
so you said like, cause like. It's not coming out of like the campus activity fund or anything like that. It's coming out of like a separate fund from the budget, right?
We're not exactly sure how this will be paid for. What we're trying to do is gauge interest if we are interested in this on campus.
All I was trying to say is I don't think it's feasible that of our $25,000 budget that goes to clubs and stuff like that, that it should be pulled fully from there. It's not a good use of money. But like I said, that's my opinion. We'll have to see where we can get money from and move forward. But we
Okay,
can't,
so you haven't like actually discussed
Yeah.
that part of things yet.
we can't do anything until we know what students think about this.
Okay,
So moving back,
Is this available in the library? Because I didn't know that it was, so it's a newspaper or a magazine, right?
Alex,
It's a news source, yeah,
For
just like the New York
You have
Times.
a relationship with your class, if you're doing paper or different things like that. I think it's a great resource for us to use as, if we have assignments, because that's the library, because we do have the New York Times subscription. At our leisure, when we do our research, I think it can be informative if you are places going into, economics, or if you want to learn budgeting, or if you don't know about money management. I think it is an idea to have in the library resource like the New York Times, so if that's an option, I don't think it's like something that comes from the allocation budget or anything like that, but as far as like being student, it is a great goal.
Yeah, it will serve, if it were to be implemented, it would serve similar like the New York Times. It's a newspaper, it's a news source that any students can access. And personally, and I'm a political science major. I had a professor, Keith St. Clair, he requires The Economist in his syllabus to pass. So when we were talking about this, I brought up the idea of, I'm not sure if this is plausible, but maybe some students will have access to this and others don't, since I don't think all students would want, like, you have to purposely sign up for this to get the subscription, but maybe just the students who want to, since I think it was closer to maybe $8,000 or $9,000 that we were estimated, and that's a pretty big chunk. So maybe if it was maybe 2,000 or 3,000 for the students who actually benefit from this and need it, that was my idea. And if it were to be taken from the campus activities fee budget, I'm pretty sure we would have to wait till next year to make a new budget line and have that, the public would vote on that. So if it were implemented in the campus activities fee, it would be till next year. But yeah, Brian?
I was gonna say, don't we have the New York Times provided to us for free?
Yes.
Yeah, so my next point of view, in what way can we tell like this department that rather than using The Economist as a source, we switch to the New York Times, or we take the New York Times deal, revoke it, and then apply that instead to The Economist.
I don't.
We should take that up with Keith Sinclair if you really want to, but
Okay.
I think The Economist is decent.
I don't have anything against The Economist, I love the economy and all that, it's the economy and all that, but still, it's like, we already have a free magazine service, why is that not being involved? Rather than telling students they can make more money to, buy another newspaper.
I feel like Keith Sinclair pretty obviously centers his rubric around like The Economist, yeah.
Yeah, like just specifically in those classes,
Yeah.
he requires the economist, but like, yeah, I get your point in general. We already have a magazine. So like to my point, maybe those students in the political science area are the ones who are looked at with the subscription rather than the entire GRCC population.
Moving down the line here.
My thing is personally, I do not really use my New York Times subscription, so I do feel like it would be nice to only have it available for like political science or economy majors. Just because I don't feel like a lot of the general students would use it as much. And then that would just kind of be going to waste.
So I let me organize my thoughts here. So how many, I have a couple questions. First of all, how many, do you know which classes in particular? It's Keith Sinclair, and then which classes in particular require it for their class?
Yeah,
Is it just that one? Or-
it's comparative governments and international relations.
Okay. Do you know how many students you had in the classes that you were, like how many students were there?
It might have changed. I took it last year, but
Yeah.
we had maybe 20 students.
Okay, so looking at the subscription cost, for a year, it's about $250 per person. And you said it's around 8,000 to 9,000. So in order for this to be a net positive for students, all you need is about 30 to 40 people
That
to take advantage of it.
That 8,900, that 8,000, 9,000 figure is not accurate. The number that she gave us was $5,540.45.
Here, let me give a rough estimate of how many students that would be. It would be. See, all you need is 20 people, one full class to take advantage of that, and then you're getting your money's worth for that. And I think that's incredibly valuable for, for students who are entering the field of economics or policy or government who may want to take that class. The subscription is going to be covered by your tuition. And that's a significant, problem for a student like me who depends entirely on financial aid. Textbooks and extraneous costs like that are a significant barrier for some classes. Like at some point, I had to scrounge enough money to get my ALEX. I'm sure every you guys are familiar with that. So I think if only 20, it just takes 20 students to make that a difference. I think that would be a huge boom. And I know not everyone would take advantage of it, but I am in support of it.
One quick thing, and then Dr. Leffer has arrived, and then we'll get to you too, I'm sorry. I was mistaken a second time. The exact number given was $5,947.
So it's roughly 22 people, but yeah.
And then you, and then we'll move to Dr. Leffer.
I was just gonna ask, like, what is the newspaper kind of biased or like which?
I compared it. I used a website that scales it based on left and right leaning political views. And it's like a 4.8, so it's slightly left leaning, but extremely slightly. So it's about as middle ground as a journalism news source can probably be. Which I think is good because we have a sizable portion of left and right leaning students here. So getting something that's moderate would be good, in my opinion.
A family that owns the Economist, in part with shareholders, the political parties pretty much independent. So I would say it's decent. I'm in favor for it. I think, in the day and age, a lot of people don't read magazines, let alone read about current events. I think it's vital, especially the times that we're facing it nowadays. Just have to stay hip, but I'm for it.
I would also like to add that it's incredibly difficult to find non-biased journalism.
Yeah, right, absolutely.
Right. especially
Um,
after this couple of-
We can absolutely bring this up at a following town hall, but for right now, we have a guest speaker that I would like to introduce and welcome. Everybody, if you haven't met him already, this is Dr. Lepper. Give him a hand.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, sir.
That's where you want me?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I wasn't expecting such a good crowd, so it's nice to see all of you.
Yeah. Yeah, remember last time you came, we had maybe 5 people.
Yes,
Now we have,
yes.
I don't know, but this is, I think, our biggest crowd.
Oh, good, good.
But yeah, I'm very grateful that, I say this all the time, and I'm sorry if I'm annoying, but we have, we're very grateful, student government in general, we're very grateful that you guys stay here for 2 hours to hear us talk, maybe even sometimes ramble, but thank you, yeah. Thank you. But with that being said, Dr. Lepper, do you want to introduce yourself a little?
Sure, sure. Well, hopefully, it won't be too much rambling from me. But I'm Chuck Lepper. I serve as the college's president. For those of you who don't know, I started my position in January of this year. I'm returning back to Grand Rapids. I lived here 25 years ago, but much like you, I started my kind of professional pathway actually being involved in student clubs and organizations as an undergraduate student. It was never my goal or plan or thought to one day be a college president, but it was because of my experience on campus, the leadership skills that I gained that really led me down that path. And so I'm thankful to be here and grateful for you being here. And I think you all have some questions for me that I'm happy to answer.
We have around 12 or so questions.
Okay.
I have more as well.
Yeah.
And I think we only have a half hour, right?
Yep.
Okay, so I don't know if we'll get through all 12 of those.
Yeah, well, we can start with the first question. These questions were all given to us from our last town hall, so it's directly from students. One student asked, what future projects are there for the Lakeshore campus?
So the Lakeshore campus, as some of you know, we opened last year in November of 2022. So that was still during the pandemic. And so that building, have you been out? How many of you have been out to the Lakeshore campus? Okay. So if you're ever out in Holland, I would encourage you to stop by. It's a former JCPenney property that's at the mall there that's been completely renovated. And when you go inside of it, you would have never guessed that it was a JCPenney store. So we have a number of things out there. We have labs from machining to dry and wet labs that are, a wet lab has water in it, a dry lab does not. So when that building was built, or excuse me, I should say renovated, we were in the middle of the pandemic. And so we just tried to see what worked out there. So we didn't have a clear vision for what that facility is. And we don't have a clear vision of what that facility is right now. So we are offering classes out there to see what the community interest is and needs. We are going to start having have started having conversations about what makes sense out there. So what programs, should there be more general education classes out there? Should you be able to complete your gen ed core in Holland before having to come here? We know a lot of students are going in between the two campuses. And so trying to figure out what makes sense from a student perspective. So the plan is to figure out really just what our plan is and then develop that and implement that. So we're having conversations with the community, with folks on that campus. Also our deans here in Grand Rapids, also looking through that. So trying to determine which courses, and it's not something that will probably happen overnight because as you can imagine, things kind of ebb and flow. So it may take us a few years to figure out what programming works there. Just because someone says, oh, I would love to take my math class in Holland doesn't necessarily mean that they will when we offer it. And so it'll take us a little while to get there, but the goal is to have a clear vision for that facility, what that campus looks like. We have space there to grow. And so that area still continues to be redeveloped. I will tell you one of the things that I think could change or impact what we do out there is anybody from Holland here? Okay, so you may have heard some of the conversations in the community. And this is going to get really kind of very deep in the weeds, but this helps explain maybe some of the complexity that we're dealing with. So if you live within Kent County, you pay in-district tuition. If you live outside of Kent County, you pay out-of-district tuition. However, public entities can vote to run a millage to come into our district. And about 5 years ago, the legislature passed a bill that said community college districts no longer have to be contiguous, meaning they don't have to touch from taxing authority to taxing authority. So right now, the Holland Public Schools and the Ottawa Hills Public Schools are having conversations about if they would like to run a millage to come into our taxing authority. And so students in those two school districts, if the millage passes, if they run one, could then come into our in-district tuition, which could be a game changer for us there. Now, the reason I'm being very vague about this is by state law, we basically have to follow campaign contribution laws. And so as the benefiting party, we can't finance it. We can't campaign for it. We can't be the ones to run the ask. And so it's really up to the community in Holland. I will tell you, I'm told it's been like a 20+ year conversation that's been going on and on and on, and it's never happened. I don't know where that conversation is going to lead this time, but I know in the 10 months I've been here, it's been an ongoing conversation. So that could also impact what we do out there, meaning that if we get people who come into our district and district's tuition rate and our population grows out there significantly, that may look very different than it does today. So right now we're serving about 825 students there a year. But if the tuition rate comes down to in-district, I would anticipate that we could see enrollment growth there. There is space for us to grow. In that facility, we also have kind of first right of refusal for the property, the adjoining storefronts, if you will. And if that happens, and if those become vacant, then we may renovate those spaces too, if we have the enrollment to support that. So I don't know, that's a long answer to what seems like a relatively simple question, but it's not.
So it's a good answer.
Yeah, that's really
Okay.
informative.
Okay.
Kevin?
So I live in Holland, and there's a story I saw in the Holland Sentinel that talks about how, and again, this is from the Holland Sentinel, and it says that you comment on it, so I'm actually curious if you can elaborate further on it. Sorry, GRCC College generates 1 billion in economic impact for just for in general, and it's based on a lot of it, what happened in Lakeshore. So like, what does that mean, and how is that like negative for?
And how did we get to that $1 billion?
Yeah, so like, isn't that like positive for just
Well, it's positive for West Michigan. So the study we just did, an economic impact study. And we do those every few years. And what that does is, what does the impact of the college have primarily in Kent and Ottawa counties? And the one that was just completed that looked at it for 2020 through 2021 says that our college operation has an economic impact of $1 billion in those two counties. And there's a variety of things that go into that. So one is what we spend in our budget as an institution. In 2020, our our budget was about $110 million. It's a little bit higher today. What do you all spend as students in those counties? And these are estimates based upon population. That estimates for, I think, if I recall correctly, around 40 million. There's a press release on our website that gives you more of the details. So if you go to our website and go down to news, there's a press release there, but also our alumni base. What is our alumni paying into the tax system? What are they spending in the community based upon the numbers that we have? We know that as students, for every dollar that you invest in your education, then you get a return of that of $8.90 over your lifetime. So that equates to about $9,000 more annually than if you didn't come to us or if you had a high school diploma. From a state perspective, part of that also, I think, is about a $200 million societal benefit. So when you think about public assistance programs, people who go to college have less social needs or some of those support services. People who are educated don't use those services at the same rate because they have a sustainable living wage. And so all those numbers added together come up to about that $1 billion. Does that make sense, Kevin?
I think for timekeeping purposes, I won't ask if there's any more questions, but thank you for the answer. It was
Okay.
very informative.
Yeah.
The second question we got from a student is, how do things get passed through GRC administration? How are decisions made? Who do I talk to? Who do I talk to make change?
Well, I would say it all depends. And so there is no single place to do that or one way to do that. It depends upon what it is. So for example, this is a great place for some of those conversations to happen. This similar format, when I first started earlier this year, was a conversation about students paying parking when working on campus. And so that was a conversation that the student government, or it's called Student Alliance back then. And so that's something that came to me from this group that I talked with our executive leadership team, which are the folks who report directly to me. And we looked at our budget and said, what can we do to change this? And I also had input from folks who serve on my cabinet, which is about 40 other people. And then also our strategic leadership team, which is about 100 people. So from an administrative policy perspective, it can start at different places. It can start in any of those groups that I mentioned. It can start with this group. And we try to reach across the college and get input because hopefully that input will lead to better decisions. But there's also the faculty association that makes decisions regarding faculty. There's also curriculum committees that make decisions regarding curriculum. I don't sit in my office and decide what's being taught in your classes. That's not how the system works. So we leave it to the experts to determine what is best for student learning. And there's also a group, it's called Academic Governance Council, or AGC for short, where there is designated representation from academic areas of the college and also administrative and faculty that they vote on policies. So for example, one that I know they're currently looking at is a student travel policy. And so that will go through that group. There's a subcommittee that looks at it, and then it comes to the larger committee as a recommendation to the provost. And the provost signs off on that. The third way that policy gets made is through our board of trustees. If you're not aware, our board of trustees is elected by the community. And so I report, and I'm the only person at the college that reports to our board of trustees. I'm their only employee. And I serve as the chief executive officer of the college. So that's how that piece works. But they approve things like our contracts with our employees. So with our faculty association, with our police department, that is approved there. They also approve things like tuition and fees. They review me and determine my compensation. When we decide compensation for employees at the college, we take that to them as well. If we add new positions to the college, we take that to them and they vote on that there. So there's a variety of ways that those decisions get made. So there's not a single, here's point A and point B. It depends upon what the issue is. But in the processes, we try very hard to be collaborative and get input, knowing that we serve multiple groups within the college.
I have a question, I guess, to that. So especially like from my position, and I understand the answer to that question is that administrative decisions get made based on a number of different places. If a student has some problem that they want addressed, and for example, I don't know where to send them in terms of getting them to the right starting point. where's a good spot where they can always start?
I would say the best place for them to start is probably with the Dean of Students Office, or the Student Life Office. Ashley can certainly help guide that. Because again, there's not a single place that if it's an academic issue that's specific to the student. So if it were specific to you, we may advise you to meet with your associate dean or with your dean. If it's a larger student issue, that may be something like coming to the Dean's Council and having a conversation where all the deans are. But I would say as a good person to help guide you, the Dean of Students Office or Ashley would be a good starting point, and they can help guide you where the best place to start depending upon the circumstance. Thank you.
I know, one thing that I would like to see changes, if it's possible, like change like the wages for the employees. It's, I believe, $12 an hour. Yeah, and I just know there's a lot of people who feel a certain way about that. And like, hey, I'd love to make a little bit more money. And is there anything in the works currently about that?
We have looked at what our wages are compared to the market and also compared to other institutions. We are actually at or above what other colleges are paying or universities are paying. As part of a way to also assist students too, is that's where the parking fee came in that if you work every day on campus, I think it's $37.50 that you're gaining from, or that you're not having to pay out of your pocket. And then when you think about, having to pay taxes on that too, it made sense from having the greatest impact on students to give them free parking than raising tuition, pay what we think we could, because whatever we raise the pay on, you would have to pay taxes on. So that automatically erodes some of that. That's an ongoing conversation that we will continue to evaluate, but that's where we are today.
If I could chime in on that too, we did a number of meetings over the summer about this exact topic, and we learned a lot. If you didn't know, GVSU's student worker pay starts at $10.33 an hour. So you're making $2 more an hour than a GVSU student as a community college student. I understand that $12 an hour isn't good in this economy. I'm feeling it personally. But if there's one thing that I'd love to talk to you more about that after the meeting. Yes.
So this is more to do with, there's been an ongoing, I guess, bargaining, I guess is the right word for, between the student support, like the tutoring staff. And I was just wondering which groups are like in charge of that? Is it the Board of Trustees and you? Is it a different separate? Because you mentioned employee compensation being part of what the Board of Trustees discussed. I'm just curious, who is chiefly in charge of that? Because this is something that's been going on since summer.
So our Board of Trustees is ultimately the ones who sets compensation. We take recommendations to them. And so it's not based upon them just, making an uninformed decision.
Right.
Similar to what we've done with student wages, we have looked at tutoring wages, what the market is, based upon educational credential, how we compare to other institutions. We are in line. We did adjust tutor salaries slightly this year. I know one of the concerns that I have heard and seen posted online is that we're not paying people a livable wage. While I don't say this to devalue what they bring to the college, but these are part-time positions, and a part-time position is not going to result in a livable wage. And so in order for us to get to that livable wage, we would have to pay a lot more. We have increased their compensation some, but these are not full-time positions at the college. And so when we created these positions and as part-time positions, they're not intended to be livable wage jobs as a part-time position. And I know that that's hard to say, that's hard to hear, We value what our tutors bring tremendously, but our structure as a college isn't built on full-time employment for tutors.
And that's not something that's being currently considered, is offering full-time positions to tutors at this time?
Not at this time, because again, we have to balance all this with tuition.
Right.
So, we have to manage all those things. One of the things that has complicated that for us as an institution, certainly, if you're not aware, community college enrollment has been declining in this country for about 10 years. So community colleges are smaller than they were 10 years ago. The pandemic also saw a significant impact, which means our budgets are also smaller. We are one of the few community colleges in the state that had enrollment growth this fall. And so we grew by 3.23% from a student head count, which from a budgetary standpoint, students are calculated based upon full-time status, and full-time status is 12 credit hours. So when you look at how many students enrolled and how many of them enrolled in 12 credit hours or a combination of, that increased our budget about 2.87%. And so, hopefully we'll get there one day, and hopefully we'll continue to grow back to where we once were. But we have to balance our budget. And that's part of the role of the Board of Trustees, is to make sure that we do balance the budget, but also to make sure that we're not building structures that aren't sustainable, so that 5 years from now, we have to have a massive tuition increase, or 2 years from now, we have to have a massive increase, because you all are the ones that have to pay for that. So it's trying to find all those things in balance.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Sorry to cut the conversation short, but we have to move on to our next question. This one, when it was asked, it got a lot of praise and enthusiasm. Dr. Leffer, can we please get a mascot? Maybe a lion.
Yes, so that's actually something I have been having conversation with my direct reports. We are doing some things right now, engaging in some conversations. One of the things that I've asked is that students be involved in that process and selecting what a mascot looks like. We did a kind of a quick, short little poll on social media. We only got about 30 responses. Of those responses, I don't recall the exact number, but the lion was the most popular one. Dr. Pepper also ranked one, and floated something called Mr. Butters. A stick of butter, I believe it was. So obviously some attempts at humor, but that is something that we do need from that, creating that sense of school spirit, that sense of belonging. There are some people who have strong feelings one way or the other about a raider. That some people perceive that as denoting certain things, and some people don't. And so I think that's part of the conversation. Some people don't see the connection between lion and raider. And so that's where we, again, have to have that cross-college conversation to make that decision of what it is and what it looks like. And so you all have that opportunity to be part of that.
Where is this conversation occurring? Like, because you said on social media, but where exactly on social media?
So I believe it was posted on Facebook. I'll have to double check that. So right now, our Vice President for College Advancement, which marketing is part of, is taking the lead on that. So we're having some conversations with various groups, various entities. We're at the beginning of that process, so I can't even say that we have said this is the process of what it's going to look like. So we just kind of dipped our toe in it, so to speak, to say what were people thinking. And so I hope that we get this resolved to this year.
Cause like, my concern would be that like, I don't really think a lot of students use Facebook. So like, if you're not getting as much engagement, like maybe advertising it through GRCC would be a better plan.
Yeah, and I don't know that it was or wasn't Facebook. That's the first one that comes to my mind. I know we have a Facebook page, but I also know that we have other social media accounts as well too.
Okay.
So I don't know the specifics of that, but we only got a few students respond to that, but it's something certainly we hope to do in collaboration with student government. And there's a hand way in the back.
Ebony.
So, to me, I think with the information.
Can you stand up and,
So for me, I think the explanation between the lion mascot and then, because right now we have like t-shirt and shirt with the lion on it. So having the lion mascot will match the t-shirt that we have right now. And I think like it's always good when before we see the guests, or when we have our mascot coming out to cheer people, like we see for all the schools, because like if we can get a mascot soon, will be very effective. Having that spirit out there, that it's a beautiful spirit. That way we can have an insurance and also we have a mascot that represents the student too.
no, I hear that. Part of why we are where we are is that the school's mascot is a Raider. However, someone prior to my time working here, who's no longer at the college, just made the decision that they liked the lion and started printing it on things without any input from anyone.
Wow.
And that's not how that decision should have been made. And so we're going to pause on that and say, okay, if it is the lion, then that's okay. But we need to have other voices at that table instead of a person making that decision for the college.
Because right now it's like there is a confusion, we don't know which one is which one.
I agree. So I totally agree with you, and I will say, you know, I don't mean this in a negative sense, but let that be a lesson to you as leaders, like don't make decisions in isolation. You have to be collaborative when you make decisions, and when you make those decisions in isolation, this is part of the challenge that it creates. So hopefully we can go back and recreate that and create a new process where more people have a voice and we have clarity. And we're working on it.
The next question is, this one was very popular as well. Could we see more art/murals around campus?
Yes.
Where could these murals potentially be, and how can us students get this started?
Yes, so again, I've been having conversations about this. I would love to see more art on campus. And in fact, one of the things I can tell you, I just met the other day about is also having meaningful artwork that's symbolic on campus. So the mural out here that was painted, some of you may know that monarch butterflies are the national symbol for students in undocumented status. And so I just met with our art faculty, and they're going to be engaging their students and coming up with some proposals. And we included the artists in the conversation, but we're going to see about pulling or making like maybe perhaps metal butterflies that come out into the grass area so that there's some art in that area. Obviously, we have to think about vandalism. We have to think about, you know, theft and those types of things. So that's a conversation. There used to be an art committee at the college, again, before my time, and somewhere along the way that stopped happening. And as the buildings were renovated, some of the artwork was taken down. I would love for us to get back to a place where we have art on the walls, that we have, you know, artwork from our students, from our faculty. We also have some art that's been donated to the college. It's just not up on the walls. So, yes, whoever asked that question, that's something I'm actively working on as well too. So I think some of these things help answer the question, like, what am I working on? But those are a couple things that are on my mind as well.
Thank you. Next one is Dr. Lepper. What's your favorite superhero? Or who's your favorite superhero?
You guys may not like me for this. I don't really have one.
You know, me too.
I'm not a superhero person that doesn't speak to me, so sorry.
That means more than actually having
Yeah, that is more of a statement, guy.
Oh, that was an easy question.
Sorry to disappoint.
You're fine. Next one is, what is your overall vision for GRCC? And we would like to hear specific details.
So here, I don't know that I'll be able to give you specific details, but these are the things that I mentioned in my investiture speech that I feel strongly about, that I think is important for the long-term success of the institution and our students and our community. So the first one and let me give you context for all this, is starting in, well, by the end of 2028, we also have a declining number of high school graduates in this country. And it's not because fewer people percentage-wise are graduating from high school. It's because there are fewer people in general because of the Great Recession. So the birth rate dipped. So people were having less children as, you know, we were in a recession. So we're going to have some of the lowest high school graduation pools to recruit from in probably 50 or 75 years. And so everybody's competing for a smaller number of students. The second piece to that is also with the baby boomers retiring and more people becoming of retirement age, there's also a smaller number of people in the workforce. So when you see help wanted signs out there, and you may have heard people say, oh, it's because people don't want to work. The reality is, if you look at the statistics and the demographics, there's just not enough people to work. And so that is going to be a challenge for everybody, and that's going to continue to about 2030. So I say that to connect what I'm focused on is one is how do we recruit and retain top quality faculty and staff that benefit our students? How do we continue to partner with K-12 and business and industry to make sure that we're recruiting students to the institution and helping them complete? How do we do that in a way that is equitable and inclusive? And then how do we continue to do that as a way to be innovative in college and education and also workforce development? That is something that GRCC is known for nationally, is some of our innovation. And so having to figure out a way to continue to do those things require the previous three things that I talked about. And so that's really my priorities and my focus currently. So hopefully that's enough detail.
Yeah.
I have a quick question
Yeah.
on that. Do you see more online classes coming, or do you see a decrease in online classes? And how do you feel about the online world?
I wish I had that crystal ball. So I think the demand for online courses is going to continue and perhaps even grow, I think, for the short time, but also I know that online classes is not a good fit for every student, and it's not a good fit for every faculty member either. I've been an online student and I've taught online, and if you haven't taken an online class, they're very different than face-to-face interactions. So we are seeing more people wanting to come back to face-to-face, but I also think that there's opportunities. And again, this gets back to, you know, a question earlier at the Lakeshore. I was looking up to see if we had that in this room, but we have some high flex classrooms that are really high tech in terms of being able to video folks in. And so that may be part of what we look at for the Lakeshore, that if we don't have enough students to run, you know, let's say a French course out there, but we have enough here, can those students zoom in essence and still be taught? Could the faculty member bounce back and forth between the two locations? And so I think that we're really at the beginning of figuring out those things in higher education in general. Certainly the pandemic pushed us all there quicker than I think we would have gotten there, just kind of the natural progression. So I think time will tell what that looks like. But I think that, you know, another influence of that, I think, is going to be AI. And what does that look like? And how does that influence the learning and teaching that occurs at a college? And so, you know, again, I wish I had that crystal ball, but generally people have higher stop out rates and higher failure rates in online classes if they haven't, particularly if they haven't acclimated to that environment. And, you know, there's lots of debate back and forth. Some people say, well, that's not actually true. Some people say that is true. It really boils down to the individual and what fits best for them. So as people become more familiar with technology, but we've seen high school students, did anybody graduate during the pandemic? And you all shifted to online classes in high school? I've heard students say, I don't want to take another online class because I had such a bad experience in high school, because the high schools weren't prepared for it either. And so I think it just depends upon what the individual's learning style is and preference, and I think over time that will even out.
I think it's definitely a demographic. Your workers, your 8 to 5ers, like myself, couldn't take that
Right,
in
right.
class. So I think it is definitely, a
right.
certain demographic that is more,
Yeah, for sure.
aimed at some people more than others. So, yeah, and I was hoping to have you say that there might have been an increase in that from online classes for like your workers and coming into online, and if there was like data on that.
Well, we certainly during the pandemic saw more people taking online classes in the last few years. However, that started to shift back. We have more online classes now than we did in 2019, not as many as 2020, 2021, and 2022. So there was a quick move over here and it's kind of edged back, but we're still offering more online classes than we did pre-pandemic, and that's pretty typical of most institutions right now.
Thank you.
Thank you. So Dr. Lepper, are there any efforts to improve reading comprehension and math skills in K through 12 education? So when the high school graduates are graduating, they're meeting like the level they should be.
And we are not as directly involved in those as other agencies within the community. So I know that is an ongoing conversation with K-12. We certainly support and encourage that, and we do have partnerships with K-12, but we're not directly involved in that in the elementary and middle schools. And really, from what I know, the data shows that students need to be at grade level by the time they're in 3rd grade, or the chances of them catching up diminish over time. And so it's really, from what I understand, important through that K to 3rd grade that students really get their reading skills developed. We have done some things. Once a student has graduated from high school, we had some money the past couple of years from the state to have a summer bridge program that focused on that. That money has dried up because it was COVID relief dollars. And so we're still looking to see if there's ways to fund that for us. And that's what that program was designed to do. But that was after someone graduated high school to help bring them up to speed.
I'm thinking of just doing like a speed round.
Okay.
So maybe in 3 words, just the simple statements.
Okay.
Dr. Lepper, what are your passions?
3 words. Summarize your life.
My passions is my work, my family, and my friends.
Thank you. Thank you. What's your favorite piece of art?
Let me come back to that one.
Okay. Do you know?
I'll say my favorite, when I think of art, I think of it universally. So I would say music is the art form that I appreciate the most.
Wow.
Good. And a follow-up to that is, what art do you dislike? If you dislike any.
I don't know that I dislike any. The one I'm probably least knowledgeable about, what I would say would be the traditional fine arts. I know what I like, but I don't know the historical context or things of that nature. So I probably am less comfortable with that.
We have 1 minute, but I'll end on one question and you can go for as long as you want. How have you changed as a person since taking the role of president at GRCC?
I don't know that I've changed as a person. I think my life has changed in many ways, but I don't think it's changed me as a person. Like many of you, I am a 1st generation college graduate. I shared openly that my assistant high school principal told me I would never go to college. When I went to college, I went there expecting that I would fail. I went there and started in developmental math, and I was embarrassed by that and felt less than, because that's what I thought it meant. And that wasn't the case. And it was because of people at that institution that I was successful. And certainly I put effort into it as well. And I had, support of friends and family too. But that's something I really always carry with me in the work that I do. As I mentioned earlier, like my goal when I started college was not to be a college president. In fact, I just really didn't even think about that. My first major was nursing, because there was a nursing shortage, and I thought, oh, that's a great job, and I'll do that. And that wasn't my thing. I quickly learned, and so my undergraduate degree is actually in human resources and personnel management with a minor in French, which I don't speak. It's been too many years since I've used it. But I would say it hasn't changed me in that sense. And what caused me to go into this profession was people helped me, and I knew that I always wanted to help others. And that's what I find, I guess, intrinsically very rewarding, is helping others and helping others achieve their goals and dreams. And I guess I never forget that, because I know the impact that we can have on people's lives, because I experienced that firsthand.
All right. Well, thank you. That wraps it up.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. So it looks like you have lots of pizza back there, so folks can get like seconds and thirds and
Yeah.
take some home with you.
I thought about bringing a box with me.
Take 2 plates and put pizza between them.
This pizza my classmates doing.
It looks like that was turning.
Are you gonna hear? Because I didn't realize how much. Probably not scan, but I just wanted to. Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Take off.
Is it kind of something I didn't consider, but yeah, the recession.